I could feel the gravy congealing on my plate while the room thrummed with everyone else's conversations, except mine. Uncle Jerry's big rig laugh rattled the china. Alyssa's toddler shrieked about the yucky green beans, and Mom's cranberry-splattered apron flapped as she ferried one more dish to the table. But over it all rang Grandma's yearly command, sharp as a carving knife. "Mark, just stay quiet like always, dear. Let the outspoken ones handle the stories." My fork hovered midair. 32 Thanksgivings, 32 silences. The knot of shame I'd swallowed since childhood burned like a coal behind my ribs. In this house, my words were background noise, my achievements footnotes. I tried to breathe, but every inhale dragged up memories. A spelling bee when that went unmentioned, a busted telescope I fixed myself, a scholarship letter crumpled beneath Dad's football playbooks. Yet tonight, a single envelope in my jacket pocket pulsed like a second heartbeat. Cream-colored, heavy, embossed with an eagle whose wings you could feel under your thumb. The White House. That letter wasn't just cardstock and ink. It was a fuse connected to 32 years of swallowed sentences. When I'd first opened it, alone in my apartment, I'd laughed and cried so hard an upstairs neighbor knocked to see if I needed help. Now it rested against my ribs beneath Grandma's decree, waiting for the moment these people told me to hush one last time so history itself could clear its throat for me. If you've ever experienced something like this, please hit like and subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. My name is Mark Fletcher. I'm 32, born in Cedar Falls, Iowa, middle child in a family louder than a 4th of July parade. Dad coached high school football, Mom directed the church choir. My siblings? Natural-born performers. Meanwhile, I built radios from cereal box foil, cataloged stars through a smudged telescope, and stuttered anytime more than 2 sets of eyes faced me. At 8 years old, I won the regional science fair with a weather balloon stitched together from trash bags. Dad ruffled my hair. "That's my little professor," then launched into a 20-minute recap of my brother's touchdown the night before. Mom hugged me, but she was already late for choir rehearsal. The applause I craved never came. The trophy landed on a basement shelf behind bowling plaques and baseball bats. That night, I promised myself, one day they'll have no choice but to listen. Middle school hallways echoed with locker slams and nicknames. Mute Mark, Radio Boy, Planet Fletcher. Lunchtime taunts ping-ponged off cinder block walls. Teachers praised my grades, yet ended every parent conference the same way. "He's brilliant, just very quiet." Quiet became identity, prison, and invisibility cloak all at once. Then came Mr. Alvarez, the physics teacher with tie-dyed lab coats and hair like static electricity. One afternoon he hovered by my desk, eyes bright behind Coke bottle glasses, cradling a glossy brochure. "NASA's Young Innovators Program, kid. They need minds like yours. Apply." I laughed, then realized he was serious. I typed the application with trembling fingers, stuttered through the phone interview, and somehow got in. That summer, beneath the towering vehicle assembly building at Cape Canaveral, my heart boomed like a launch countdown. For the first time, silence felt like awe, not exile. College was caffeine, constellations, and lab shifts. My senior year, Dad's first heart attack hit like a meteor. Medical bills cratered the family finances, my sister's wedding devoured savings, my brother's business fizzled. The unspoken rule reseated itself at Thanksgiving. Mark would leave school, come home, and help the family. Quiet kids comply, so I folded my scholarship letter and took night shifts at the feed mill. Dust choked my lungs while my brain drafted propulsion schematics nobody saw. If this part hit you hard, leave a comment and tell me what you would have done. Months blurred into years, clang of conveyor belts, the ammonia sting of fertilizers, the hum of fluorescent lights at 3 a.m. Yet every spare second I soldered circuit boards in Dad's unheated garage, coaxing life from charred resistors and scavenged stepper motors. I was after an idea, small enough to fit in a shoebox, yet powerful enough to change orbits. A micro-ion thruster farmers could build in a shed if they had the blueprint. Cheap propulsion for university CubeSats, refugee camp communication balloons, even hobbyist weather probes. Something that said space wasn't just for billionaires. At 28, I filed a provisional patent. There was no champagne, only a $130 fee I'd saved by skipping lunches. But planting that flag on the lunar surface of United States Patent Office records felt like claiming oxygen. 2 years of silence followed, broken only by whirring fans and occasional exploding capacitors. Friends texted wedding invites. I RSVP'd, maybe, then stayed home tweaking nozzle algorithms. Family gatherings remained the same slideshow. Brother's new truck, sister's baby photos, dad's recovery milestones, Mark's empty chair. Until one March morning an email pinged across my cracked phone screen. Urgent. Potential collaboration opportunity. Office of Science and Technology Policy. I thought it was phishing. Then I saw the .gov and my lungs froze. The DC summit they invited me to felt like another planet. Marble floors, chandeliers that looked like frozen fireworks, men and women in suits that cost more than my yearly rent. My entire presentation fit on a thumb drive and in a secondhand briefcase that still smelled faintly of feed corn. I watched CEOs dismiss interns with flicks of diamond-cuffed wrists and felt the old stutter threatening to seize me at the podium. But the moment I started explaining electrostatic grids and xenon cluster efficiencies, my voice steadied. Equations replaced fear. By the time I clicked to the final slide, satellite imagery showing potential communications networks for disaster zones, the room had stilled. And then someone clapped. Then another. Until the applause echoed like a rocket plume through marble columns. A woman in a navy blazer with a tiny Secret Service lapel pin approached. Mr. Fletcher, the White House would like a copy of your presentation. She handed me a linen business card embossed with the presidential seal. My knees buckled. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you've ever felt underestimated. Weeks became a flurry of peer reviews, prototype tests, government grant forms thicker than a Thanksgiving turkey. I learned acronyms faster than I once learned constellations. SDTR, SBR, CRADA. And then, one crisp October morning, came the envelope. The President requests the honor of your presence at the National Medal of Technology and Innovation ceremony. Travel and accommodations included, for my family, if I wished. I stared at it on my kitchen table while a pot of instant noodles boiled dry. I thought about calling Dad, but something inside me whispered, save it. Read it when they tell you to be quiet. And so tonight, Grandma's dining room smelled of sage stuffing and strained politeness. Dad praised my brother's dealership sales. Mom passed around my sister's ultrasound printouts. Uncle Jerry reenacted a Hunting Channel episode with a butter knife as the rifle. Nobody asked about my life. Even though I'd flown in that morning fresh from a propulsion test anomaly review at Goddard. When Grandma's decree landed. Mark, stay quiet like always. The moment crystallized, perfect as a Hubble photograph. I felt every silence I'd swallowed condense into one solid mass. I stood. My chair scraped hardwood. Conversation dropped like an unplugged jukebox. I reached inside my jacket. The envelope withdrew, its cream surface glowing beneath chandelier light. My hands shook, but my voice, surprisingly, did not. Actually, I said, I have something to read. My cousins exchanged looks. Dad's mouth opened. Mom set down the gravy boat with a porcelain clink. I broke the wax seal, crack, and unfolded destiny. Dear Mr. Fletcher, I read, eyes skimming 50 times faster than my voice, but I forced each syllable out slow enough for everyone to hear. On behalf of the President of the United States and the Office of Science and Technology Policy, it is my honor to inform you that you have been selected as this year's recipient of the National Medal of Technology and Innovation for your groundbreaking work in low-cost micropropulsion systems. Gasps. Forks paused. Even Alyssa's toddler gawked. I kept reading. Invitation dates, black tie dress code, details about the East Room ceremony broadcast on C-SPAN. Mom's hand flew to her mouth. Dad's eyes shimmered. Grandma clutched a napkin like a surrender flag. Every dismissal, every shrugged science fair, every command to hush cracked and fell away like an old chrysalis. When I finished, the silence wasn't mine alone anymore. It belonged to the whole room, reverent and ringing. Grandma whispered, "Oh, Mark, we didn't know." I folded the letter. "I know," I answered, voice calm as deep space. "But now you do. If this story moved you, hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear it." The celebrations that followed unspooled like a movie montage stretched over weeks, and each frame deserves its own chapter. So let's rewind the tape, slow it down, and live inside every moment. Because redemption isn't a single fireworks burst, it's a constellation forming one star at a time. I spent Black Friday not in a shopping line, but in Dad's garage, adjusting prototype number 43's fuel feed manifold while snow sifted through a cracked window. Mom shuffled in, holding a mug of cocoa and looking everywhere but at the half-assembled thruster. "Honey," she began, voice trembling, "why didn't you tell us?" I tightened a screw, eyes on the motor. "Because you never asked." But I said, "I needed to be sure it wasn't just another hobby to you." She set the mug on my workbench, accidentally nudging a spool of solder. Her eyes found the patent certificate tacked to the pegboard. She must have seen it dozens of times without reading. Tears spilled. She whispered that she was sorry, that parents make mistakes, that sometimes noise drowns out miracles. That night she told Dad, and Dad called the church to announce something bigger than a state championship is happening to the Fletchers. Sunday service turned into an impromptu pep rally. Even Pastor Willard abandoned his sermon to praise local genius. I stood frozen beneath stained glass while congregants squeezed my shoulders. The same stained glass that had blurred above me as a child when I prayed God would make me bold enough to speak. The White House itinerary arrived via encrypted email. It included a dress rehearsal at the Eisenhower Executive Office building, meet and greet with cabinet members, and a 5-minute acceptance speech. I hadn't spoken 5 uninterrupted minutes in my entire life. Cue Mrs. Nguyen, a retired debate coach recommended by Mr. Alvarez. Her living room smelled of jasmine tea and old paperbacks. She met my stutter with a gentle nod. "We'll train the way astronauts train," she said. Incremental exposure to vacuum. Vacuum, in her metaphor, was an audience. Day 1, I recited my speech to a row of stuffed pandas. Day 3, to her weekly mahjong club. Day 5, to the entire high school debate team. Every stumble she recorded, every success she applauded with silent jazz hands to keep me from flinching. By Saturday, I could explain plasma plume dynamics to 30 teenagers without a quiver. Parallel to speech drills were propulsion tests. Prototype 44, Firefly we called it, needed a clean thrust curve before January launch on a university CubeSat. I spent dawns in an abandoned barn, sensors wired to barn doors, cold biting through fingerless gloves, while xenon thrummed in stainless steel chambers. When frost formed on the nozzle exterior, I cursed, recalculated insulation thickness, and started again. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you've ever felt underestimated. The local TV station requested an interview. I arrived in a borrowed suit. The anchor greeted me with the enthusiasm reserved for lotto winners. "So, Mark, shy guy turned national hero, what's that feel like?" My throat dried. Cameras rolled. My eyes darted to the red tally light. A bead of sweat slid down my temple. Then I heard Mrs. Nguyen's voice in memory. "Speak into the vacuum. Fill it with purpose." I inhaled. "It feels overdue," I said, startling even myself. "There are kids out there soldering dreams in garages. I want them to know silence doesn't mean absence." The segment went semi-viral. A BuzzFeed listicle titled, "10 times smart introverts got the last laugh," featured a gif of me adjusting my tie. My email flooded with reporters, venture capitalists, and one middle schooler named Leon who wrote, "I'm quiet too. You make me think being quiet is okay." I printed Leon's email and taped it beside the patent certificate. But every high brought a low orbit wobble. The closer the ceremony loomed, the worse the panic attacks at night. I'd wake gasping, convinced the president would shake my hand, then realize I was a fraud. In therapy, yes, I finally found a therapist willing to trade sessions for minor garage repairs. Dr. Estrada taught me to name the black hole thoughts and chart escape trajectories. Identify, assess, correct course. Same as your thrusters, she said. January wind slashed across the regional airport tarmac. Mom carried a garment bag with my tux. Dad lugged a thrift store suitcase coated in stickers. NASA Goddard. I love ion engines. Proud of my quiet kid. Grandma, cane tapping, approached security like it was Judgment Day. She wore a brooch shaped like a shooting star. On the plane, her hand found mine. I made you small all those years, she whispered above the engine roar. But look at you now. You're bigger than any of us. I squeezed back. Forgiveness isn't an instant sunrise. It's a dawn creeping across frost. Yet warmth spread. We landed at Reagan National under a slate gray sky. Secret Service met us with a placard reading Fletcher Party. They swept us into a black SUV that smelled of leather and diplomacy, past monuments gleaming like catalog photos. I won't pretend I remember every second. The East Room chandeliers refracted so many flashes I saw prisms for hours, but there are frames I'll never forget. The Marine Band's brass swelling as we processed past portraits of presidents who never imagined a stuttering farm kid from Iowa would join the pantheon of medalists. Mom gasping when she saw Michelle Obama in the audience, whispering, "She's real," like a child spotting Santa. The moment the president's hand enveloped mine, warm, solid, human, as he pinned the medal to my lapel and murmured, "Your work will change lives." I didn't stutter. I said, "Thank you, sir," as clearly as sunrise. My 5-minute speech. I knocked it out in 4:47, Mrs. Nguyen's stopwatch magic. I spoke of barns and barrels, of being the mute middle child, of teachers who rocket-fueled belief, of silence turned to propulsion. I ended with, "If one kid watching this feels their quiet mind can reach the stars, my work is already immortal." Applause ricocheted like liftoff. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from if this felt familiar. Media whirlwinds can feel like Kessler syndrome, objects colliding endlessly in low Earth orbit. I did morning shows, podcast marathons, and a Reddit AMA where someone asked if my thrusters could power a skateboard to the moon. Short answer, no. Investors circled like vultures. I learned to differentiate genuine partnership offers from hollow hype. Back home, I founded Fletcher Micropropulsion Labs in a refurbished grain silo. The high school robotics club helped repaint it NASA white. Dad installed the HVAC, Mom handled reception. We hired Leon, the middle schooler from the email, as our first intern. He almost fainted when I handed him a branded badge. Firefly thrusters launched on CubeSats monitoring deforestation in the Amazon, on weather balloons tracking monsoons over Bangladesh, on emergency comms payloads over earthquake-struck Turkey. Each launch my jaw clenched till stage 2 ignition. Then I cried like a baby seeing first light. At the following Thanksgiving, Grandma insisted I carve the turkey. She handed me the knife and said, "Mark, your turn to speak first." The room fell silent. Not enforced hush, but anticipatory hush, the kind galaxies must feel before a star is born. If this part hit you hard, leave a comment and tell me what you would have done. I cleared my throat, the knife poised over golden skin, and felt the same hush I'd once begged for eclipsed by something gentler, respect, maybe even wonder. I spoke about the satellites our little silo lab had nudged into new orbits, about farmers in Zambia texting crop data through a relay our Firefly had kept aloft, about Leon's first successful test firing that left him covered in soot and grinning like he'd found a new galaxy. Dad wiped his eyes. Uncle Jerry just muttered, "That's my nephew," as if he'd always known. When I finally sliced through the turkey's surface, the first piece fell the way a launch vehicle slips its pad clamps. Smooth, inevitable, historic. That evening, after leftovers and peppermint tea, Grandma asked to see the workshop that had put our name in the stars. So we bundled her into Dad's pickup and drove to the silo. Frost glittered in the headlights, turning each cornstalk stub into a tiny antenna. Inside, heaters hummed, and Firefly 47 lounged on its test stand like a silver koi waiting to breach a pond. Grandma ran a wrinkled finger along a nozzle bell. "You built this here?" she whispered. "Here, and in all the quiet places you never saw," I answered. She nodded, then surprised me by tapping the metal twice and saying, "Thank you for waiting until we were ready to listen. If this part hit you hard, leave a comment and tell me what you would have done." Spring arrived trailing invitations. MIT wanted a guest lecture. The European Space Agency offered a cooperative research stint. A late-night show dangled primetime airtime. But what pulled me hardest was a letter from Mr. Alvarez, now retired and teaching physics to inmates at a correctional facility. His students had watched the medal ceremony on the common room TV and erupted when they heard my name. Proof, he wrote, that a quiet mind can cut through even prison walls. I booked a flight the next week. The prison gym smelled of bleach and borrowed hope. Rows of orange uniforms sat on metal folding chairs while I set a grapefruit-sized thruster on a plastic table. I told them about ionized xenon, about delta-V budgets, about silence weaponized into focus. Mid-talk, a tattooed man with asteroid belt knuckles raised his hand. "How'd you keep going when nobody cared?" he asked. I felt the old lump rise in my throat, but met his gaze. I told myself the universe is mostly vacuum, quiet, but it's also where every star lives. I figured if quiet was good enough for them, it was good enough for me. The room went still, the way even the rowdiest lunchrooms do when truth strides in. Later, the warden thanked me and said applications to the GED program spiked by 50% that afternoon. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you've ever felt underestimated. Back at the lab, Firefly 48 was refusing to behave. A micro fissure in the hollow cathode threatened catastrophic failure. We worked 70-hour weeks, Leon snoozing on beanbags between data logs. One stormy night, lightning killed the county power grid mid-test. Capacitors screamed, xenon vents failed, and for one horrifying second I thought we'd undo every headline with a silo-sized crater. But the emergency purge I'd installed, an idea born at 3 a.m. during one of those panic attacks, saved us. As the system hissed to a safe shutdown, I sat on the cold concrete, shaking, while rain hammered the tin roof like applause from giants. Mom found me there at dawn, my hair plastered to my skull, blueprints stuck to my cheek. "You know," she said, "there's a verse about a still, small voice." I laughed, half sobbing. Turns out it can shout pretty loud when it needs to. That month, we shipped Firefly 48 to JAXA for low Earth orbit debris mapping. Launch day, I stood on Tanegashimaa's beach at midnight, the sea breathing darkness behind me, and watched the rocket ignite the sky. When second stage separation glittered like a falling crown, I whispered, "Go make some noise up there." No stutter, just starlit certainty. If this story moved you, hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Success breeds attention the way gravity collects dust. Venture firms flocked, some genuine, some seeing only dollar signs. One, Helios Capital, offered 8 figures for a controlling stake. Their pitch deck glittered, but their terms gagged me. Scale quickly, outsource R&D to cut costs, rebrand as Silent Sky. Silent Sky, erasing not only the lab's name, but the very struggle that had forged it. I pictured Grandma tapping the nozzle, Leon's soot-black grin, inmates folding college applications. I turned Helios down. The backlash was swift. Anonymous blogs claimed I'd stolen my own patent from a defunct Soviet design. A podcaster labeled me an egomaniac nerd too precious to partner. For a week, Google auto-completed my name with the word fraud. Panic attacks returned like meteors, scorching sleep. Dr. Estrada, still trading therapy for occasional HVAC tweaks, reminded me trajectories bend, they don't break, if thrust persists. So I did what thrust does, I kept firing. We released the schematics for Firefly 30 under an open-source license. Universities in Nigeria, Peru, and Vietnam built their own variants within months. One Nigerian team live-streamed first ignition, the chat filled with flags, hearts, and the phrase, "Silence can launch." The blog rumors died, truth outshone them like noon over candlelight. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from if this felt familiar. Years cartwheeled. By my 40th birthday, our thrusters had logged 2 million cumulative hours in space. Leon led a division designing plasma sails. Grandma, at 93, cut the ribbon on our new campus library. The president I once met left office. Another wrote me asking advice on STEM equity. I visited dozens of schools, prisons, refugee camps, carrying a pocket-sized Firefly shell polished smooth by nervous thumbs. Each time I set it in a student's palm, I said, "Quiet metal, loud future." And yet, some nights, alone under Iowa's prairie sky, I still heard the faint echo of Grandma's old command, "Stay quiet." Only now it landed differently. I'd smile and answer, "I am quiet. I'm also everywhere." One of those nights, Dad joined me on the porch, cheeks silver in moonlight. He cleared his throat the way I used to when words jammed. "I was hard on you," he admitted. "Didn't understand the engine inside your head." I exhaled a breath I'd been holding since childhood. "You taught me endurance," I said. "Thrusters need sturdy mounts." We sat until Orion climbed over the barn, silent together, but nothing about that silence was small. If this part hit you hard, leave a comment and tell me what you would have done. I'm telling you all this because, somewhere, another Mark is polishing impossible dreams in a forgotten corner, waiting for permission to speak. Hear me. The universe already gave you that permission. Your silence is a launch pad, not a cage. Ignite it. Let the first whisper be xenon blue, and trust that those who once hushed you will one day gather just to feel the tremor of your ascent. So if you're still watching, maybe alone at 3 a.m., maybe surrounded by doubters, know that the letter in your jacket pocket is coming. Maybe not from the White House. Maybe it's an acceptance email, a dried ink patent, a message from a kid who needs your quiet courage. When it arrives, read it aloud. Let the room hush. And when someone says stay quiet like always, smile, unfold destiny, and say, not tonight. Because tonight, history wants to hear you.